You've seen the thumbnail, you've seen the title. That's right, I'm doing Slew's self-portrait challenge. I painted a self-portrait every day, filmed it, edited it, and did the voiceover for it. So the voiceover you hear is of me of that day having finished the self-portrait. So it's day 7, I've just finished, pretty tired, but let's rewind a few weeks ago when I started the background for that canvas, and then the beginning of this week when the challenge started, where it all began. Okay, so we need to be looking this way because the canvas would be going that way. Now, technically I'm not filming this section yet, but I might as well do the first portrait photo. Take a photo. So, the self-portrait, that has been used by artists for as long as art's been around, really. You've got Van Gogh, who painted a lot of self-portraits because he couldn't afford the model, and the good thing about a self-portrait is we're always available. So I've painted a few of my own self-portraits before. I've even done a 12-day run, but what I haven't done is spent a good amount of time on them. So usually I spend maybe 20 to 40 minutes on a self-portrait, and this is going to be the first time I've spent a good amount of time trying to get the likeness looking like me, more or less. However, what I want to use this challenge for is to really test out some of these techniques I'm trying. Yeah, let's get to the studio. I'm going to go in tomorrow and we'll use that first portrait that you saw me take a few weeks ago now. I decided to start off with a couple of warm-up sketches just to get the pencil moving, and I've been trying to figure out what it is I'm trying to achieve through this, and I want to get more texture into my work and still have a level of representation. And so because I don't have to send this off to anyone, it's just for myself, I can start to really have fun and just play around with the colours and use this time for practice. So I've begun just fleshing out the structure of the skull, and initially I do get the eyes a bit too wide apart, I think, or maybe they are in the right place. It's difficult to tell because I decided for the first one just to go in freehand and just paint, but I was fumbling around quite a bit trying to find the proportions here and measure it all up, because I'm not really a draftsman. I kind of feel the paint and feel where I am, so I'm just tracing. And what I mean by tracing, I'm doing it freehand on the painting, but I'm imagining my paintbrush is on the reference photo. So this was my favourite bit of this painting. I really wish I just kept it at this half-finished, bright-coloured stage, but I tried to push it further and then I kind of ruined it a bit, or at least it became something else. But I really wish I kept it at this level because it's bright, it's fun, and I think it has an element of me in there, even though it's not fully there. But yeah, this bit was my favourite bit of this painting, but there's another 6 to go, so I've got time to just try different techniques out, and it's a really great way to improve and just focus on different things each day. Looking at the texture here, I really love the texture, and I'm hoping on one of the days that I can just go full texture, maybe even use a palette knife and just let go of any previous thought, and yeah, just see what can be achieved when I really push the limit on how thick the paint can go and still be able to dry. And that's the great thing about acrylic, it will dry at most thicknesses without having to worry about the fat over lean rule, or at least not as much as you would do with the oil. So for day 2 tomorrow, I thought I'd do something a little bit different, and I'm going to take a screenshot from one of my previous videos, which I'll link up there. And yeah, I was pulling some right weird faces. I'm probably doing it right now, and yeah, managed to capture a really great face. So that's the photo I'm going to be using, and I'll be using that tomorrow. Okay, day 2 in the studio, and we've got our pencil sketch, which you can't really see in this camera, but I've got my shopping list. I've got my list of the possible palettes that have been suggested, so I just need to see whether I have those colours. I've ordered some for the Thorn palette at the end of the week, which I hope will arrive in time, hopefully. And yeah, so I wasn't too happy with the colours on the first one. I was happy with it halfway through, but looking at it now, I think it's okay, and I need to just accept that was day 1, getting warmed up, getting into it, and I'm going to have to just leave it as it is and get on with this one. But it's a bit smaller than I wanted because the slice tool on Photoshop was doing its thing, but every time I saved it, the file would just disappear, and I didn't really have time to work out why that was the case. So I couldn't find it to print it out, which was going to print it out a bit bigger. So A4 will have to do. It's a bit smaller than the one I started off freehand, but at least it's in proportion, and hopefully it would look okay on the canvas. But it's looking far too long, and I always say that because I tried to get this down to 20 seconds, it ended up being over a minute. So let's get going. Well, I haven't filmed too much of day 2. I was starting to notice this video would end up being about an hour if I kept going the way I was going. It was much easier because of the tracing of that photo. Tomorrow I'll be doing it freehand and trying to get these proportions right myself for studying purposes. And I just really like the texture of the paint. I could have blended it a little bit better, which I wasn't really being too aware of in this instance. I was too busy enjoying the build up of those colours and layering the lips and really enjoying that. Got much practice to be had for the nose. The colours are very subtle in places where I'm squinting and I can't even see what colour it should be. This was a really great exercise. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and was a lot quicker than yesterday, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. So I quickly realised that I have a different approach when it comes to paintings, and the sketch just was not working for me. I've got a lot to learn when it comes to plumb lines and proportions and all that sort of stuff. We've always got something to learn, and it kind of looked quite stylised and warped and squished, and it didn't really work. And then I tried other sketches, but I just was not feeling it, and I couldn't get into the sketch. So I tried the sketch out, and I quickly abandoned it as soon as I went down to paint. I couldn't really get into the painting either, and that also became warped and took a lot of adjustments to get right. Then it all changed when the right song dropped, and I can get into the movement and dance of this painting. This, of course, was not the actual song. The actual song really did hit, and you can see the actual song with the link in the description. And yeah, this really changed things. I often find the right playlist for music so that it works with the art, whether that's psytrance, which I don't listen to normally, but art has found so many different songs, and just finding that right playlist, it can change everything with the way I move and the way I connect to this painting. And the reason I was struggling to connect with this one was because I knew I had to finish by a certain time and edit this in order to get ready for Friends, which I have tonight. I actually quite like this one now. Don't overly hate it. Like that, I scrape the eye off. It just means that I know, it shows that I know that it's not quite there. And yeah, it kind of works. And I've got to fit 4 portraits onto the next one, so that's going to be a challenge because one for every day. But yeah, really was not feeling this one, but it's better than where we started, I think. I'll have to look back through the footage, but I don't know, it has something. It's got a bit of me in there, even though the draw is a bit weird, but yeah, there we go. So this is the last time I'll be using the iPad, but I was pretty tired today after a lovely evening with my friends, but it finished at like 11:30 at night and I'm not used to that. So for this one, I'm using any colour going and just focusing on getting the paint nice and thick and getting away from that pink colour that was going throughout all the other portraits, and so concentrating on greens, oranges and blues to add a bit more variety into this. But I've done this one rather smaller because I want to have room for when I do this observationally with the paintings. So I'm just using the palette knife really roughly to block in the larger areas of the shadows on the cheeks and the nose, and I've even used it on the eyes to some extent because I just want to map out a rough textural base to work off, and then I'm using the brush just to fill in some of the details on the finer details, and then back in with the palette knife to keep this energy going. So this painting was far quicker than the other ones, around 1.5 to 2 hours, and that's partly because I had the sketch down already, so that took maybe another hour on top, and it just sped things up a bit and I could just really play around with it. And I would have liked to have a bit more contrast and definition to the form, but I still quite like the fact you got to squint at it in order to see the painting emerge from the texture. And so I think the colours are successful. I think it could have done with, like I say, a bit more depth and contrast, but as a quick painting halfway through this challenge while being a bit tired, it's good to just get this day done, and I'm happy with it overall. And yeah, this was a good day painting in the studio, and I just really wanted to play around with the texture, which I have done. Okay, today's the day. Good start of oils. I'm going to use an acrylic base today in order to get a rough structure, and then force myself to stop so I can start picking out the details in oils, which I've not done before but always wanted to have a try. No idea why the Polaroid is not in focus, but if anyone in the comments can let me know, if you know how to do Polaroid photography, I would love to know. So, day 5, and I'm starting to feel it now, 2 days to go, and here I'm just putting down that base layer of the acrylics, ready for the oils, and I was just really fleshing it out with mainly this yellow colour and then a few other colours later, and it's just to get the bare elements there. It's easy to go too far, and then I've got an acrylic painting finished rather than getting the foundation ready for this oil painting. And I'm no expert when it comes to oils, and it's something that I would like to get better at, but it's just a dry time. And so here I'm just enjoying getting a very basic foundation going without the focusing on the details too much. I decided to wear gloves because I'm very messy and I often have to peel the acrylic off my hands, which with oil is much more difficult to do. You can't peel it for one because it doesn't dry, and then I just wanted to protect my hands and not have to be touching everything. Once we got down to the oils, I was able to just manipulate it and really enjoy building it up. I mostly used just the one brush and just kept wiping off the oil at the in between colours. I think it worked out quite well. The colours stayed mostly clean. I had to keep being careful not to make them too muddy in places. And overall, I'm really happy. And just have to be careful because I end up using liquid usually because I don't like using white spirit. And it's just managing all of that kind of stuff, which takes a little bit more thinking than the acrylics might do. But everyone has their preferences, and I favour acrylics. I do like to use oils on occasion just for a bit of a change. It just gives me a bit more time to work with it, but I tend to work quite quickly anyway, so the blending on the acrylics isn't an issue for me personally. I think these weren't fully developed because the duochrome is a lot more yellow now. So they're looking good, but I still couldn't use this one for painting because I just couldn't see the details, but good photo I think. And this one kind of looks like a man, even though it's the paint tube. And those were my attempt at a double exposure, but didn't quite work. But I don't think they were fully developed because the yellow looks much better, but still not quite in focus. So if anyone knows how to depolarize and make them in focus, then leave a comment in the comment section because I would like to know. But I think they turned out all right. 2 days to go, and I actually really liked using the oils. And the only reason I don't use oils is because of the dry time and not understanding the layering and having to wait for it to dry and all that sort of stuff. Acrylic is much more immediate and it suits me most of the time, but it was a great change to just have a go at it, and I think it turned out okay. It was fun to play around with, and I look forward to doing the same tomorrow. Right, 5 down, 2 to go. We're nearing the end of this experiment, this study, and it's been great just to see what I have and haven't learned and what I need to work on. And today I'm going to be using just oils, not using that acrylic foundation to help us, and any colour will do, and we'll see how we get on. So I quickly realised that I got the proportions wrong, and it was not possible to fit 4 faces on the canvas, or at least I should have squished them up more, but I didn't want to interfere with the other paintings. So I think the first canvas was more successful. So I scraped it off, and I almost wanted to keep it like that because it looked quite abstract and intriguing, but it didn't really go with the rest of the canvas. If it was on its own canvas, I may have left it like this because I quite liked how it looked. And I just couldn't quite get the angle right because in the photo I'm kind of looking up and tilted to the right slightly. And that head tilt is something I struggle with in most of my paintings. And so it was good to practice, but I still have a long way to go in order to get that right. But overall, I'm glad I kept going. I'm glad I took that bit of a break to think about it. And I think the addition of the fish at the end kind of helps tie it all together. So the addition of these acrylic fish really helped. I think it helped bring the piece together. I just had to be careful not to paint it over the oil because of the different drying times and the way that they dry. And I'm glad I took the break because I think adding this lighter colour onto the left side of my face really helped bring the piece together, along with the extra detail of the nose and mouth, even though I was tempted to leave it at that scraped off look. So that's day 6 complete, and last day is tomorrow. So it's the final day and the Sawn palette arrived as of yesterday, so really looking forward to it. Unlike the other paintings, it's going to be on its own canvas, so I don't have to worry about lining it up. And apparently those who like colour, like myself, don't particularly like the Sawn palette, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's a famous limited palette, so the challenge is to see how many colours I can make using just these 4. And also I think it might help improve my skin tones as well. So let's get to the studio, one more portrait to go, and yeah, let's see how today goes. So it quickly became apparent that this Sawn palette was going to be difficult to produce greens and blues. And I don't know how Slew managed to do it with the subtlety in his, but it was really quite challenging, and it ended up being really quite orange with the yellow ochre and vermilion. So I was trying to get some green for this eye, but ended up being more of a kind of dampened down hue of the yellow ochre rather than its own particular green. And the ivory black is meant to have a bit of blue tint in it, but I couldn't personally see that. It just gave a lot cooler greys, but it still didn't produce that blue that I was after. I was hoping for a little bit more of a blackish blue. It was really quite challenging. I really liked it at this kind of stage where I've got the nose and eyes and cheek in there, but as soon as I put the smile in there, I made it look a little bit demonic, really, and I think I got the happiness and emotion across, but it wasn't quite me, and I think it's partly where I was standing. I needed to stand over the painting and have a better angle in order to get those proportions right, because if you're looking down at it, there's something called forced perspective, where a lot of the masses would create flat looking skulls where from a certain angle it would become 3D, and if you're not careful you can't do that automatically, so you have to work out where your viewing point is. So this wasn't my most successful painting. I was pretty tired, so I will be revisiting the Sawn palette. I decided to add this light green, which obviously isn't part of the Sawn palette, but it just needed something to lift it up from the grey. Okay, that brings us to the end. So this was a lot of work. I wanted to get more painting in. I wanted to understand what makes my paintings good. I did want to study and practice, but what it's really taught me is my strengths lie in the emotion and the expression. So I captured the smile or the eyes or something within the artwork, and it allowed me to try different techniques out, to try different brush strokes and approaches, different palettes, and also it allowed me to try oils again for a little while. And what was great about that is it really taught me why I like acrylics and why acrylics is so versatile and so good for what I do. But then I've also got some ideas of not being so scared of oils and being able to use them more often. Really happy with how the challenge went. It was a lot of work, every day painting and then editing, so it's not something I could sustain, and I'm looking forward to some time off now. But it was such a great challenge. I'm really thankful to have done it, and it shows we're all different and shows how good Slew is at the very subtle mixing of paints, and it also showed me what I'm good at, where it's more just expression and very colourful and just capturing something, some essence of the self. And with the self-portrait, I think I managed to capture many different moods and approaches and styles, showing many aspects of myself. So yeah, very happy with that. So yeah, that brings us to the end. We're not quite finished the video yet, but if you liked this video, then I would love to have you as part of the community. So hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you don't miss any videos. I tend to upload once a week, but the way I am with my ADHD and things, I don't tend to have a schedule, but I aim for Wednesday and then I often miss it, and it will be up sometime within that 7-day period usually. But it's time for the final reveal.